he had not
signed it. They were still operating under the memorandum of understanding. Today, it is official. Belichick is the head coach of the Tar Heels. Should he leave before June 1? It is now set in stone, signed in blood. He will owe them $10 billion. He ain't.
No, he ain't signing it in blood. So even though I do wish we would sign more contracts in blood, that means you really mean it. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, like, if he signed it in blood, then maybe Tom Brady would be hesitant to try to fork over the $10 million to get him out of the contract. Maybe the fact that he didn't sign it in blood, maybe it puts the foot in the door for Tom Brady and the Raiders to still swoop in.
I don't know. I don't think. I want to coach. I don't think so.
Anyway, we'll touch on a lot of those things for you throughout the course of the afternoon. Got some other NFL stuff to get to as well. Unless somebody has been hired by Dallas, New Orleans, Las Vegas, or Jacksonville in the last, say, 90 minutes, those are still the 4 openings remaining.
As someone who is currently wearing a New Orleans Saints sweatshirt, I would like for them to announce that they're having a new head coach in the next little bit.
Just leave that on you, by the way. They can't capture both of us unless you can't.
I was going to alternate. Yeah, for those watching, I was going to alternate. That way we can get both our pretty faces.
Nobody.
I look fantastic today.
You do.
And part of it is because I'm wearing this New Orleans Saints sweatshirt.
I'll give you.
This is one of my comfort sweatshirts. Everybody's got one. This is one of mine. But I'd like them to hire that person.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sooner rather than later.
By the time the Super Bowl hits New Orleans, I saw an
it's like 2.5 weeks out, right? But that the temperatures
like around 70. But you don't know what it's going to be in like 15, 16, 18 degrees.
Yeah, I've always wondered that. I think I was that far ahead. Those people get paid for that. I don't get paid.
Don't do that to people. You don't do that yet.
We'll get into that for you a little bit more on what's going on around the Ichiro situation. February 4th, we should find out who did vote for Ichiro.
And then we can bully them.
I know that's become a big story. Some people like, as I say, it's because a writer decided to become part of the story. There is no good reason to not vote. And there weren't 10 more people on the ballot
this year.
You said, oh, well, all of them should get in over each. So, anyway,
that's all.
What are you more intrigued to find out? Who it was that snubbed Ichiro, or who Ichiro was snubbed on the vote for? Combination of the two. I want to roast this person.
I'll give you C. Just one.
Yeah. What led you as a thoughtful voter? What led you to leave it?
Because again, it bothers me. This has nothing to do with
Mariano Rivera being the only unanimous person. Mo Rivera was awesome. Love him.
Love how he came in. Love the entrance.
Talent. It was great. Dude threw one
all-time entrance.
Dude threw one pitch,
and it was. And even when people say
he blew it, if you will, and I air quote that. Blew it on a broken back, blew through a great pitch. But one in about 250 find a way on a big giant baseball
field to make it, right?
He broken back. So, anyways, it has nothing to do with Mo Rivera.
The fact that he is the only unanimous person, that's what bothers me.
Out of all the ones that you this stupid tradition,
I mean, again, going back, who 40-something years ago
looked at the ballot
and said, who doesn't deserve
the Hall of Fame? Like, I try to figure that out. Or when Willie Mays, who doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame this year? Willie Mays. Like, bro, what? Like, what are you
talking about?
That's what I don't get.
I put Ichiro in that upper echelon category of amazing baseball players, transcendent baseball players.
And arguably the best player to ever come from his country until Shohei Ohtani. I think Ohtani will eventually surpass that.
Probably will.
But before Shohei Ohtani, has there ever been a better Japanese baseball player?
No.
And that took the world by storm the way he did.
But he could have been Japanese, Chinese, American, Canadian, whatever. Dude had just
his role and his impact on the game of baseball globally too. So the alone should make him. If people are deserving of unanimous first ballot Hall of Fame, that's one of those guys. Absolutely. those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. But we'll touch on some of those things for you too. And I'm not trying to hear you get to it. You're going to spend time on that guy. Talking about something else.
But I will do one other thing.
I want to go ahead on it because this is going to run
through the end of the program. We got finally last night we got the numbers for the college football playoff championship game, and they were down not 12% from an all-time high, but 12% just from last year's game. With Michigan winning
the title, but down 12%. Basically, I think the average was 22.1 million, so still good. A peak audience of around 26 million in the second quarter. But I threw a poll question out today that asks what you believe the biggest reason for the drop is, despite the game featuring two of the, not even arguably, two of the biggest brands in college football. A, it was too late in January. B, a dislike of both teams. C, college football fatigue. Or D, the inauguration and Martin Luther King Day coinciding as well, and just taking people's attention for a variety of reasons away from college football. So we got a lot of you that have voted. Thank you. Not going to give you the results right now. Go to my Twitter feed, jphillips10, jphillips1075. Vote on that. This one's going to run until the last segment of the program, and we'll discuss it then. But let's get into it now from a local perspective on just there's so many adjectives to label it with, but heartbreaking, gut-wrenching is one I used. Brutal, painful basketball loss last night by South Carolina to Florida.
Avoidable.
Final 70-69.
Nice.
South Carolina, under 13 minutes to play, had a 14-point lead and blew it. Look, is Florida the better team? Yeah, they came in ranked in the top 10. We've seen what Florida's done this year. We know what they've got. But South Carolina had it figured out, and they were doing their job, were the Gamecocks. And then Florida did something that Florida has not done much of, and they went to a full court press. It honestly reminded me of some games. I can think back to high school when you used to just scare the life out of people. If you could perform well defensively with the full court press, you just scare the crap out of players. And honest to God, last night, a couple of times, that's what I was seeing in the eyes of Gamecock players. Fear, genuine fear of screwing it up and still screwing it up. I'm not going to sit here and hammer the guys. I'm going to give Florida a lot of credit, but I said last night on my tweet after the game, Elijah, and I know you agree, you've got to show more composure. You've got to protect the basketball. There was one inbound play. You may remember the specific timing better than I do. It was Carolina was inbounding, so it was Carolina's play to be drawn up. And they were inbounding to, if you're facing towards Carolina's basket, to the left of Florida's basket, going, trying to go back down the floor. So they were on Florida's end.
Right to left on your radio dial.
Yes. And a little bounce pass inbound that Florida, as soon as the ball basically was placed, and I forgive me for forgetting who was inbounding the ball, the Florida defender just stepped right in front of the hopeful recipient, quick little 1-2, boom, score. And I'm like, Todd Golden may as well have drawn that play up because they knew what was coming.
It went right into
his hands
of what the defense is doing.
Exactly what they wanted you to do, and you played right. And that was just a one example amongst many. Carolina turned the ball over 12 times last night, but what
in the second half?
In the second half,
11.
Yeah. And I think Zach had 6 of them.
5 in the second half, 6 for the game.
Yeah. So, but I also thought when Zach hit a 3-pointer that banked in to make it 68-62, I said, you know what? Maybe this is just their night. Maybe it's going to be, because that shouldn't have gone in. And I know one of the things you like to look at when you delve into the numbers is, the efficiency. And I did not think that was the greatest shot, but sometimes they go in. I talked about it. Florida had one bank in too. It happens, but I was mystified at how badly South Carolina played when Florida cranked it up to 11.
Yeah.
And at some point, you've got to stop and handle that. I know there's a lot of folks that have said they should have called timeout going down the floor.
No.
I don't agree.
Oh, I mean, Lamont. I think Lamont did the right thing. His reasoning for it is very sound too. I mean, look, playing against a broken defense is probably the most efficient offense, right? Like the
if
last
you call
thing you
timeout,
do,
let Florida set up, then you're
and let them and then inbound the ball and let them get
Steal
big
it again?
7-foot Alex Condon ahead of the ball and have you already have a hard time inbounding the ball.
Right.
Your best chance at scoring is getting out on the break and trying to get an open shot. And Jacoby had an open look, and I think really the only thing was he had about 2 seconds on the clock when he shot it.
Yeah.
He probably could have taken two more
up
and got a little closer to the rim.
agree.
You only need to score 2 to win the game. You're only down 1.
Right.
And that was the right decision. I
have zero problem with the final shot after Florida's layup went in, but boy, and again, I want to give Florida a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit.
That's a gutsy win on the road.
But South Carolina, you have a 14-point second half home lead. You must find a way to win that basketball game, and that they didn't. Listen, it might have already been a damaged season for a lot of you out there. I get it, but that would have been a nice feather in the cap to try to get something going. And instead, it feels like the exact reverse. Elijah will have more of his take. Again, Jordan K was there as well. We'll get his take. He comes up with us here in just a little bit. We are live at Craft and Draft in Irmo. They've got a huge 5th anniversary party coming up this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun, especially if you are a sci-fi fan. We'll tell you more about that throughout the course of the afternoon as the post-game show rolls on. Love telling you about integrated media. 803-948-8327 for any and all of your home theater needs. They are the experts across the Midlands of South Carolina and beyond. If you love what you have, maybe you're ready to go in terms of a home theater setup, but you're ready to go next level with today's equipment, they can get it done for you. Building or remodeling this year, let your contractor work with integrated media, install all of that once, right the first time. They do that for you too. Maybe you love enjoying the South Carolina weather, watching a little football or baseball or whatever outdoors, or your favorite movies. Outdoor systems that look and sound just like they do on the inside. You're streaming a lot, you're gaming a lot of you still working from home all these years later. Then professional grade Wi-Fi installed. It's easy to use and always works. That's what integrated media is all about. Love what they've done for me. I know you will feel the exact same way. 803-948-8327. Watch it all better with integrated media. 19 minutes after 3 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah broadcasting live from Craft and Draft in Irmo. It's a little bit bigger than Craft and Draft in Chandon.
It is more spacious.
A little bit.
More spacious.
And by a little bit,
they got games here.
I would say
they got skee ball.
I'm gonna try to do the math.
They got skee ball. That's the most important thing.
I'm gonna say it's like 8 times bigger, 10 times bigger.
On the inside, yeah, definitely. Yeah. They have skee ball here, and that rules because I'm a monster at skee ball.
Why don't we just throw it on to like CBS radio and go play skee ball all day? And they got 2 sit-down Mario Karts over there too.
Oh,
man.
What? Oh, they do? Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
I am better at the Nintendo 64 version of Mario Kart, like the original one. I tore that mess up back in my day. Tore it up.
I'm good at Mario Kart Wii. That's the one I can play.
The Wii's all right.
Have the little wheel. It's great. It's great. So last night, I don't know what this does. I mean, the crowd was good. They were into it. You had it going.
Student section showed
they
out.
Did.
Props to them, man. They made it loud in that arena, and you could tell. I think the crowd was like 80% students, just because of the weather and a lot of people that would have traveled into the game from other towns.
Well, I'm not. Neither one of us are naive, man. You were 0-5, and you had a top 5 team coming in. You didn't have a lot of hope, and I listen. The fact, I know the Oklahoma game again. It's kind of ironic in my opinion because Oklahoma's not any good. And yet they beat you by 20 because, as we talked about on Tuesday's show, we didn't have a show Monday, but when we came back and talked about it on Tuesday, my word was they just faded down the stretch. Carolina did in Norman. A
degree of wilting.
Yeah,
occurred.
but they brought it last night, and they brought it against Auburn, and they brought it against Vanderbilt, and it's in those games. You lost by what? A combined, 3 of your losses are by combined 7 points, including the 2 top 5 teams. A 3-point and 1-point loss, both in your building, but nevertheless, they probably should have beaten the crap out of you, and they didn't. I feel for Lamont. I feel for the guys because I don't think this is an 0-6 team that just goes out there and gets their doors blown off and doesn't give 2 you-know-whats about playing basketball for the University of South Carolina or for each other. They do. But they keep losing. But last night, man, I think that's a different kind of loss, Elijah. I mean, you see those kind of things, maybe for lack of a better word, it finds a way to galvanize them where they can really be like, guys, we're that close. Or does it just rip your guts out? We'll find out on Saturday against a team that beat them by 35 points not even a month ago.
Yeah, I've got an interesting comparison because it's a team that I cover closely. I covered that 2018 Vanderbilt men's team that went 0-for in conference play. And there are some similarities in terms of talent. That team had talent. It wasn't like that team was just completely devoid of talent and guys who could play basketball. I mean, I guarantee they wouldn't have gone 0-18 in conference play if Darius Garland didn't tear his meniscus in the 6th game of the season against Liberty, right? Understand that would not have happened, but this team still had Aaron Nesmith, who starts games for the Indiana Pacers. They also had Saban Lee, who has played for the Detroit Pistons for the last few years. And this is a team that still a lot of talent, lost some close games early on. 3rd game of the season, we're going to them to the Kentucky game at Rupp, held Kentucky to under 60 points, lost a 9-point game. And then you had South Carolina at home, where a technical foul late in the game helped give South Carolina a win, helped give them the win. That was at home. Lost a tough one there. Number 1, Tennessee came to town. I'm looking at the date now. That was January 23rd. So that was, 7 or 8 years ago to the date, where number 1, Tennessee came to town, lost in overtime. That was a heartbreaking game. They had like a 4-point lead in the last 2 minutes of that game.
Right.
Very similar. Right. They shot themselves in the foot. They couldn't stop fouling Grant Williams. And I'm not kidding. I think Grant Williams made 20 free throws in that game. That's not an exaggeration.
Right.
I got the box score pulled up right here. Grant Williams. Yeah, he had 23 free throws. He was 23 or 23 from the free throw line. Couldn't keep him off the free throw line. And it was a gut-wrenching loss. And leaving the arena that night in that Vanderbilt-Tennessee game kind of felt like how I left leaving the arena last night, where you had a top 5 team on the ropes. This is the second time you had a top 5 team on the ropes in your home gym, and you let the other team get away with it. And Florida got away with one last night partially because you helped them get away with one. But here's what you need to avoid. that Vanderbilt team that I covered is the only team in my career I've ever really accused of quitting publicly. Because after that game, Oklahoma in the Big 12 SEC, challenge, beat them by 31. Then Kentucky came to Vanderbilt that next Tuesday, beat them by 35. And then they lost a bunch of games by double figures. And at the end of the season, the last home game of the year, Arkansas almost beat them by 40. They quit. That team quit. Do you have that dog in you to come back after these type of losses and learn from the mistakes? Because you know what other teams are going to do now? Pressure.
They'll press you. Yeah.
They're going to press you full court.
Absolutely.
Can you learn from that? And can you not get overly discouraged to the point where you don't quit on this season? That's the challenge I have for him.
And that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Beating him.
It's the biggest thing Lamont has to worry about right now, I think, is his guys' mental state. I'm not saying they're fragile or anything like that. But again, from my point of view, in watching them just fold last night the way they did, just crumple under pressure, I saw fear. I saw a team that didn't know what was hitting them and what to do about it. Wide eyes, just a look of that far away, and you could sense it, you could feel it. And even then, though, you and I were talking this morning, as we do every day, and I said, I told my wife, I was like, listen. And my wife is a huge basketball fan. She gets into basketball more than any other sport. But I was like, Florida now just has to worry about scoring one more point per minute than South Carolina, and they win this basketball game. And South Carolina can't let that happen. Again, at that basically the 13-minute mark, Carolina was up 14 points, and so that's where Florida was. And instead of and I told you, kind of joking, I'm like, man, you can get outscored by 13 the rest of the way, and I guarantee you win the game. And instead, they got outscored by 15, and they lost the game.
Lost the game.
It's that, and I'm not sitting here like dazzling you guys with my math skills. But South Carolina, you just can't. And I remember too. Help me out, Elijah. When Carolina was at 58. And I think it was maybe it was like 58-46, and then bang, it was 58-51. And I was like, we're that right?
They had to call a timeout.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was a couple steals.
Yeah.
It happened because there were a couple steals.
Yeah.
One in the backcourt that turned into an easy layup, and then one where they actually got the ball past half court, and they kind of got trapped a little bit, and the ball got poked out. I think it was one of those that Zach got the ball poked out. Yep. And it led to a Will Richard layup on the other end, and it was like, bam! Like, I mean, and
at that point, I think Florida knew they are like, okay, now we're good. Now we're good. Let's make sure we keep our composure. And they just kept listening to what the things were that Todd Golden told them to go do. And they did it. And it's not that Carolina was ignoring Lamont Paris, but based on what he said in postgame relative to how they performed, they did not get the message. He talked about that. Like, all right, we can handle a few of the, or we can give up a few of these turnovers when we get pressed. But otherwise, now we know what's hitting us. And I swear it felt like every single possession, and you nailed it too with your scouting report on Florida when they're in transition. And it's not until you see it in person do you really appreciate it. They don't just get after it. It's like they get the turnover, and before you can blink, they've laid the ball in.
Mm-hmm.
And when they missed one, I was like, oh, they missed one. That might remember that, and it still wasn't enough. But I mean, I was like, my God, they get down there and they just they kill you with it.
Yeah, there was an Elijah Martin bucket where Alex Condon got a rebound near the South Carolina's free throw line or elbow extended, free throw line extended, and I timed it because I was like, oh my God, that is a lightning fast score. By the time that Condon grabbed the rebound to the time Elijah Martin put the ball in the basket, it was 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, that's how fast this team moves. They thrive in transition,
incredible.
man, and they scored more than what their season average is. And this is already a team that is in the 98th percentile in scoring in transition in college basketball.
Yeah. Jordan Kay will join us on the other side. We'll get his take on kind of where this team can go from here. Again, State comes in next, and all they did was beat Carolina in Starkville a couple of weeks ago by 35 points. So that's what you have to look forward to. We'll touch on a few football things with Jordan as well on the Beat for the State paper. That's when the postgame show returns. Talking some Carolina hoops, get into a little football as well. Jay and Elijah broadcasting live this afternoon from Craft and Draft in Irmo, the big room out here in Irmo. Come say,
buddy.
hey, we're here until 6. They're here for later than that. I love how their hours are. We're open at 11-ish. Says it right on the door.
Honestly, that's how I describe a lot of time because I like to give myself some wiggle room to be late.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fashionably late, because if I say I'm going to be there around this time, you can't be mad if I say around 3:30 and show up at 3:39.
I love saying ish
because I said around.
Yeah,
right?
Is that more of a Southern thing? Ish. My mom did that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
maybe.
a Southern thing or
I don't know.
or that's a more universal English language thing or not.
It could be.
We'll find that out. We'll get the crack staff of researchers on that one. Always a pleasure to talk with our buddy Jordan Kay on the Gamecock beat for the state newspaper. He was at CLA last night as Carolina fell to Florida, 70-69. Always good to have you, sir. I saw this morning. I went through your Twitter timeline of the game last night. So why don't you kind of give us the synopsis version of how you saw what unfolded in, say, the final 5 or 6 minutes.
To me, it's just the antithesis of last year. I mean, if you go back to last season, like, remember, it felt like every single game kind of was almost playing out the same way, where it get down to the last minute and somehow South Carolina would pull it out. It's just been that this year, except they haven't made the plays at the end. I mean, this happened against Vanderbilt late, where they had like 26 turnovers and still almost won the game. Happened against Auburn, where they missed 2 free throws. And then it happens last night, where the full court press or 3/4 court press just gets them, commit too many turnovers, miss a free throw at the end, can't get a play set in the final seconds. And it's just like everything that could go wrong in the last couple minutes does go wrong. And this team is just struggling to find ways to win at the end, which was something they were so dang good at last year.
Yeah, I think Zach Davis worded it pretty well last night when kind of asked about what went wrong when facing that press. And the first word he used to describe it was they were timid. And there definitely seemed to be a timidness and dare I say maybe an element of fear of losing the game. And I think that definitely played a factor in the turnovers that happened. Look, it's the team that if this was a half court basketball game, Jordan Kay, where we just only allowed you to play in the half court, you had to check it back out above the perimeter after each miss, then South Carolina wins that game because they dominated in the half court. But it can be pretty frustrating as for fans who've been keeping up with this team to see something like turnovers, especially turnovers in the backcourt, be the one thing that cost you against a team that's a legit national title contender.
Yeah, it was so interesting to hear Lamont Paris talk about it. I mean, very insightful in his post-game things, and he almost like shook his head like, this is not like that complicated. It's not like they had 10 guys out there. This is a press, something that is in basketball from, when you're in 5th grade to middle school to high school. Like, this is not the hardest thing in the world. And he's like, on every team I've ever coached, like, hey, we practice it. Usually the team tries it. We figure it out. No big deal. And it was, I don't know what it is, because is it timidness? I mean, I think that's it. Is it a lack of aggression? Is it because there's not a guy who's like, give me the ball, like, let me get out of this? I think last year that guy was like Michi Johnson, who just had this like almost irrational confidence, where there were times where you're like, dude, like you can chill it out a little bit, but man, you need that sometimes of the guy who's like, give me the ball. I don't care what's going on, and I'll at least get it up court, and we'll figure it out from there. And right now, you're right. It's like they are timid. There's not the guy, the alpha, that's kind of taking over right now. And Lamont was even saying it last night about Colin Murray-Boyles, where he's like, hey, I want Colin to demand the ball more, and I want our guys to give him the ball more. You got to give him credit for passing the ball sometimes, but man, how dominant he was in the first half. You would kind of like to see him be that guy for the entire game.
Talking to Jordan Kay of the State Paper, Carolina falls to Florida 70-69. The guys get back at it Saturday afternoon, 1:00 tip against the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who again beat Carolina by 35 points when they saw each other to open conference play a couple of weeks back. Jordan, you just kind of hit on it there, and I completely agree. Look, I said they were scared. That was my word. Timidity, fear, whatever. That's what they were last night. They don't have the guard play that they had last year with Johnson and Cooper. And that is clearly a giant difference. They're also missing their starter in Jamari Thomas. There's word that he is inching back. What more are you hearing about any weekend availability, A, and B, how much of a difference is that going to make for this ball club?
Yeah, I mean, Lamont he didn't seem 100% that Thomas is going to play this weekend. And I don't even know how much it would really matter. It's not like, Jamari Thomas is averaging 25 points or whatever. There are different problems that they need to figure out. I think it would definitely help. And, last night, Florida afterwards was kind of talking, hey, like we knew Thomas was out and we knew they didn't have a ton of depth in the backcourt until we went after that. So, yeah, if he doesn't play, I would expect Mississippi State to kind of attack that backcourt and maybe try to press the same way that Florida did.
Yeah. And here's another thing, too, that I'm really interested to watch on Saturday, even if there is no Jamari, like how they utilize Colin, right? I mean, I think how Colin played in that first half against Florida is going to win you games. And you touched on it a little bit earlier, and I kind of want to revisit that. I think last night showed why he is a highly sought-after NBA draft prospect because of his ability to pass the ball. And when they ran the offense through him as the facilitator, kind of as the fulcrum of the offense, you saw what this team can do. And that score well over a point per possession against the top 15 defense. Like last time we saw him play against Mississippi State, the Bulldogs made him play in a phone booth, essentially, and cut off all space, and he had one of the worst games of his career. What do you kind of expect to see this offense moving forward, kind of using Colin as that fulcrum, especially when they're getting ready to play a team that really gave them the business on that end of the floor last time they saw each other?
Yeah, I remember thinking during the game, during that first half, like, are they making it a requirement that Colin has to touch the ball every possession? And, like, Lamont almost said that after, like, we wanted him to have the ball touched every single possession. But, I think the passing part, like you're talking about, Elijah, is impressive. But that first half, I mean, he was making some of the most absurd baskets right around the rim that are so tough and were forcing so much Florida attention. I think that opened up some of the passing in the second half. But, man, like, he's so good with his footwork. He's so good around the basket. I mean, he was hitting hook shots over 6'10" centers, and he's kind of fading away with whatever hand he wants and putting it off the glass. He is so skilled. It's like almost, hey, I'll throw to Colin Murray Boyles on the block. He can dribble as much as he wants and kind of take your chances with that. Yeah, I think they have to start facilitating the offense through him more, and they really did a good job when they did that against Florida. So, yeah, I think he's going to touch the ball for almost every possession, and you got to hope that you can keep that up. But also, like you're saying, hey, Mississippi State had a heck of a game plan against them the first time they played. I assume Lamont saw that and is going to make some adjustments. Does that mean that Colin's going to have to start touching the ball closer to the free throw line, closer to the three-point line? Like, what does that look like? And I think he's shown he's capable of doing that. So perhaps he is kind of playing a little further away from the basket just to make sure that Mississippi State can't just hound him.
Jordan will get you out of here on a football question. Elijah and I this week have been looking at a lot of the way too early top 25s and some Heisman odds and national title odds, and South Carolina figuring prominently in all of them. What do you believe it does? I mean, look, averaging around 11, 12 basically for, way too early top 25. Lenoris amongst the top 10 Heisman candidates, if you want to look at that in January. Carolina amongst the top 10, 12 in national title odds. More pressure, same pressure, nothing really different. This is now the expectation for South Carolina going in. That's how far they've elevated. How do you look at it?
I would say it's the same amount of pressure. And I mean, those top 25 things are so silly because it's like, okay, what teams finished the end of the season in the top 25? And then which of those teams return their starting quarterback? Okay, they're probably going to be in the top 15, top 10. Like that's right. Like Clemson is like a top 10 team in some of these, and you're like, really? So yeah, I mean, it's a different sort of pressure. I think last year, Shane Beamer made it like an incredible talking point of like, hey, no one believed us. I mean, it seemed like every week he was like, hey, someone picked us to win, 4 games this year. No one believed in us. And I think that team like really kind of ran with that. And so this season it's a little different. I think it's, hey, don't pay attention to any of the outside noise. We're this good team now. This is our expectation. I think in some ways it's kind of where they were at after the 2022 season, winning 8 games, beating Tennessee and Clemson. I think there was a lot of hype and stuff around it. I'm interested to see how Shane Beamer messages it to his team, because it is something very different for a lot of these guys of having the expectations and the hype around them early in the season.
Good stuff as always, man. We appreciate you. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That's Jordan K of the State Paper, Jordan K with an E_23 to follow along on Twitter. It's the Postgame Show. 10 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. Post-game show rolling on from Craft and Draft in Irmo. We'll be telling you more about their big weekend plans, and they are big. 5th anniversary. Sci-fi. Is it Sci-fi anniversary they're calling it?
I think it's what I saw on the chalkboard.
I think that's right.
Sci-fi
Sci-fi
anniversary.
But it's their 5th out here, and a little sci-fi theme going on.
Love it.
I should have brought my Han Solo costume that I wore.
Ooh.
Yeah, except that I was like 11.
Oh, I thought you meant like recently, like you got adventurous and no, you're not going to fit in the one as an 11-year-old.
No. Yeah, as much as I love Star Wars, I don't have any grown-up Star Wars stuff.
Fun generational thing here. So you were 11 and you wore Han Solo Halloween. Halloween, I assume.
Yeah, it was Halloween, okay. And I was Hoth Han Solo. So I had like the goggles and like a parka, which probably was a bad idea if I remember correctly. It was after Empire Strikes Back came out. So maybe I was 10.
Okay.
That came out in 8. Yeah, I was 10.
So you were a little older than I was at this time. So I remember when I was like, it was like 2 straight Halloweens, like ages 6 and 7. I was Darth Maul for Halloween.
Nice. Ooh,
my mom made the mask. I didn't get the face paint because I, as a kid, had like this really weird thing. I didn't like touching sand with my hands or paint with my hands and getting paint on me. So I didn't do face painting. None of that. I would freak out. Right? I would absolutely freak out. If you're like, Elijah, you want a face paint? Absolutely not.
Did something happen that made you not like paint or sand?
Hell if I know. If it did,
I'd go to the beach.
If it did, I blacked
What'd you
out.
do at the beach?
Oh, I didn't mind walking in sand. Loved walking in sand, but I hated having it on my hands.
So no sandcastles?
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
Huh.
I would immediately go to the ocean and rinse them off.
Yeah, sure. Right. I do.
It was a weird like OCD thing.
Well, I will give you that. Like, when I'm at the beach,
hands,
even to this day, I still like. I don't want it drying on my hand. I will go to the ocean and like wipe off.
I was a really weird kid, but I love Star Wars and I loved
kids, man.
Darth Maul. Man, I had the lightsaber, the 2-edged lightsaber or double-sided lightsaber.
Yeah. Cool.
Still have it.
Yeah.
Still have it. It's at my dad's house.
If
but I still own it. I had the whole outfit and everything, man. That was my favorite character. That was my guy.
Find me somebody that says at some point in their childhood, that they were never weird, and I will find you a liar.
A liar. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We all have
it's all good
kid stuff. But yeah, Darth Maul was my guy.
You were just going over some of the draft projections for Colin Murray Boyles, and I don't know how much the NBA look. I mean, everybody likes to have somebody who's winning and confident and that kind of thing. I don't know how much Carolina's poor form in conference play, and that's being kind, is going to hamper him. I suppose it could, but I wonder if it is.
I don't think it is. I think last night he showed why he is as highly touted as a pick as he is, because he showed his scoring ability around the rim and especially his passing ability. Look, the way the NBA right now, the more playmakers you can get on the floor, the better. And traditionally, maybe before 2010, the traditional way of thinking was you have a point guard that runs your offense, right? They're the assist, the facilitator, everything like that. I look at Colin Murray Boyles and I see a little bit of Draymond Green there. They're about the same size. Yeah. At 6'7".
Yeah.
They're not great outside shooters, but they could pose, like if Colin can pose a threat as like a 33% 3-point shooter in the NBA, that's at least a threat to where you kind of have to pay attention to him out there, and he can spread the floor a little bit. He'll never have to be like a 35, 36% 3-point shooter, but he's an elite passer for a guy at his position, and he is elite defensively. And that's what Draymond Green is. Draymond Green's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. Not saying Colin's going to be one of the best on-ball defenders in the history of the NBA, but Colin is a great on-ball defender. He's a great team defender, great on help side, very athletic. There's a lot that Colin does where I look at it, and I know NBA GMs and NBA scouts can watch Colin and say, we can use him after a year or two the same way Golden State used Draymond Green as that type of player. Like Draymond Green's never going to go out there and score 30 in a game.
Right.
But he'll get you 11, 12 points, 8 or 9 rebounds, 6 or 7 assists. And Colin can be that guy in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the demand for him comes from.
And probably never get ejected from a game.
Yeah, significantly fewer ejections.
I was going to say.
I feel confident.
I think people are thinking, wait, he's not mean, Elijah. No, he's not. He's talking about the basketball.
Purely basketball standpoint.
We'll come back on the other side here at Craft and Draft. We'll update the poll results for you as we look back at the college football playoff championship game. Again, the TV numbers were poor in a relative sense. We'll do that. Plus, Brad Muller joins us next hour. Keep it here.
Big weekend here in the professional football ranks. It's my favorite Sunday of the year. It is Conference Championship Sunday, and my friends over at Prize Picks are going to help you enjoy it more than you normally would because they're giving out a free square, man. Prize Picks, the game that you download. You can win up to 100 times your cash just by picking more or less on at least 2 players from 2 different teams and their stat projections. And you know what? Prize Picks says we can cut that in half for you because they're giving you Jaden Daniels more than 0.5 passing yards, right? I think everybody that watches football knows that Jaden Daniels is going to at least complete a pass in this game. And if he completes a pass, it's probably going for more than half a yard. So there's your free space on the bingo card right there. Prize Picks hooking you up, and I'm very excited to take advantage of this because I'll be taking Jaden Daniels, and I'll also be going more on Josh Allen passing yards as well. Download the app today. Use promo code 1075GAME and get $50 on your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks.
4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Post-game show rolling on from Craft and Draft in Irmo. Appreciate you tuning in with us. Appreciate the folks at Craft and Draft for having us out. We are Elijah Campbell and Jay Phillips. Ed Bird at Master Control in downtown Columbia's Herndon Chevy Studios. Downtown's a long way from here.
A long way to you.
For me. Yep.
As a seasoned traveler of the roads. I'm just in a car a lot.
Yeah,
I am the station's traveler, so this is nothing. And actually, I maybe live about 2 exits down the interstate from here.
Oh, so
We're closer to my backyard than yours.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
Sure.
That's true.
This is like a home game for me, kind of.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other Craft and Draft would be a home game for me.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, but again, this one's bigger.
This one is, and it's got Mario Kart and skee ball.
And I just went and looked. They have a ton of pinball machines, and they have one. If you know, I'm not advocating like distraction and theft. All right, I'm not advocating these things.
Okay, I like where you're going with this. I like when you start a sentence that way.
But if you could distract enough people, I would like to steal the James Bond pinball machine and take it to my house. Is it
Goldeneye?
It's actually no, it's like Dr. No, man. It's like old.
Oh man. Oh, now you're talking.
It's like old.
All right, I can create a diversion. I've always wanted to do that. If I was ever to commit a
I'm not advocating
crime,
that we steal from these fine
no,
people.
absolutely not. We would never pull that off here.
But I'm just saying.
In
a hypothetical world,
if I ever got to the point in my life where I wanted to pull off, a team effort crime, a grand crime, I want to be the one to cause the diversion.
Now, some people may say, well, I mean, is that the best you're going to do if you're going to have that kind of distraction and theft that you're just going to take a pinball machine? I'd be like, well, I mean, I don't want to ruin people's lives.
Yeah, but see, that.
Including my own.
Victims.
How long do I go to jail for the theft of a pinball machine relative to, say, a bank heist?
Oh, yeah, not even close.
Yeah, so I don't want to do that.
Not even close. No.
And people may say, well, Jay, you're at a place that sells a lot of crap beer. You like beer, just steal beer.
Well, now when you put it that way,
I can get beer. I can get beer again. There's probably not that many of those James Bond pinball machines, man.
I mean, less than how many would you say are actually?
Well, because they're probably all old and beat up, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
less,
just it.
Less than 25.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hunted?
I don't know. I don't know. But I want one. I don't know where I would put it. And my wife would holler at me, and then she'd be like, "How'd you get that?" I'd be like, "I
don't ask questions you don't want to know the answers
to."
That's
right. Yeah, I bought it,
and that's why this is going into the kitchen. There's nothing you can do to say about it. Don't tell anyone I have this.
So
no pictures, please.
No, they have a lot of cool stuff out there. They have pinball tournaments going on like all week or every week. Not
that's
all week,
awesome.
but every week.
Yeah.
They got a lot of fun stuff. And again, we'll tell you more about a big event coming up here on Saturday. That will be a lot of fun. Whether you live in town or out this way or somewhere else, you might want to come partake. So we'll tell you about that in just a little bit. No more college football. We do have big NFL games this weekend. But viewership, poll question time now. Viewership for the college football playoff title game was down 12% from last season, despite the game featuring 2 huge brands. What's the biggest reason for the drop? A, too late in January. B, a dislike of both teams. C, CFB fatigue. D, the inauguration and Martin Luther King Day happening on the same day and just pulling people's attention away from college football. As we speak, 40% of you say it's a dislike of both teams. 26%, it's too late in January. And then a tie at 17% between college football fatigue and the inauguration and Martin Luther King Day. The average number this year, 22.1%. That's about between the BCS and CFP era when we've had true national championship games, kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's solidly in the middle. I think you and I thought last week there'd be something closer to the all-time highs. The most watched college football game ever, I believe, is Texas Southern Cal, the Vince Young game.
The Rose Bowl in 2006. Great game.
And then the second most, I believe, was the first CFP championship game, Ohio State, Oregon. And maybe only one other one that eclipsed 30. And now I don't have the number in front of me. I'll have to go back and find it. I have it saved. I just don't have it in front of me right this second. But 25, 26 has been a number a lot of times. And there have been a few that didn't go under or that went under 20 million, which is probably not that great. but 12% from last year. Again, 22.1 average, 26 million was the peak number of viewers, estimated to be around 8:30, so second quarter of the game on Monday night. Got a few of you that hit us with some interesting things. Dustin says, I voted for too late in January, but I'd also like to add this. Too much of a good thing isn't always a good thing. On that note, Chris said it's a mix of 1 and 3. This dragged on way too long. The FCS has a 24-team playoff, double the size of the CFP, and was done weeks before the CFP ended. For most people, college football mentally ends around New Year's. And I'll get some more hits from what you guys have sent in on Twitter. A lot of you commented, so I always appreciate that. Listen, I picked these 4 choices, Elijah, because I think all 4 of them probably did factor in. Sometimes you love to watch people that you hate, but if you have 2 teams that you hate and you're hoping that, like if it's one team you hate and one team you're kind of like either, oh, I like them, or just meh, then you want to pull against a team you hate.
Exactly.
But
You're pulling for that team. Yeah.
But if you don't like either of them,
you're pulling for someone. You're pulling for someone to pull a fire alarm and make sure the game's not played.
But you might not want to watch.
Right.
You just plain old like I don't. You know what? I don't want to watch that.
That might be the case around here.
Yeah, and I don't. Nationally, I'm not so sure.
I know. That's the only option I disagree with, like strongly.
Not liking either one.
Yeah. Like from a national standpoint,
right?
Because there are significantly more people that like Ohio State and Notre Dame than hate them. And that goes for every brand.
Well,
right?
I had
for
one
every
guy,
large brand. There's always more lovers than haters.
Or
else they would not make that much money and have that much wealth in their athletic departments if they didn't have that much support and that much interest.
Robert said, no national fan following for either team if you were not from Ohio or Indiana or
That's
an
false.
Alum.
That's
Yeah,
false.
It is.
That is very false.
Especially when you say Indiana. Yes, we know that the campus of the University of Notre Dame is in South Bend, Indiana, but it's a national university. It is the flagship Catholic university in a nation filled with very prominent Catholic universities. It is, the reason that Notre Dame has its television deal exclusively with NBC and has for 30 years is because they are a tremendous national draw.
It's not because South Bend is a large city that requires that type of media contract.
And it isn't like Indiana folk, are going like, who our favorite team is? Notre Dame. No, in Indiana, they like Indiana and Purdue first.
That's why they call the Gene Hackman high school basketball movie The Irish.
Right.
Nah, just kidding. No, they call it Hoosiers.
So I do disagree with that. And Ohio State is such a gigantic school. Its alumni base is massive. I think their alumni base is like 400,000 living alumni or something.
I think you underestimate.
And
people that live below the Mason-Dixon line underestimate how large a school Ohio State is.
And that's just living alumni, and it might even be bigger than that. I don't know. I mean, it might be bigger. I can't. I'll go double check that in a minute. But I mean, there's like 50,000 people at Ohio State at any one time, student-wise, and it's in a big city. So, I get it, but I don't. I'm with you. I don't think that's it. I do think there are people that don't like them,
especially in this area,
right?
And that's fine. I think that's probably a reason why, if the local numbers are down and you ask locally in Columbia, South Carolina, or even just the state of South Carolina, why did you not watch the national championship game? I would believe that. Yeah. That is what I believe. But in terms of explaining the whole number nationally, I think that would not be the case.
Let's see. Preston says inauguration plus college football is a self-inflicted declining product. Listen, it isn't as if the powers that be didn't know well in advance that even if the inauguration itself is at noon, but it isn't like you didn't look on the calendar and go, we're going to have our game on inauguration day that couples with a federal holiday. So could you have done a better job of scheduling the game? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, they definitely could have done or scheduling the season.
Well, and I think that's where this kind of comes back to. You and I a couple weeks ago talked about a piece at The Athletic from Scott Dockerman, who covers college football, primarily the Big Ten, but covers all of college football. And he had a fantastic set of suggestions for, quote, fixing college football, especially from a logistical standpoint. And I think there were several that were great, but one of them that I know I loved was, for one thing, again, the term week 0 is stupid. Make that the first week, have everybody start playing. Reform the schedule so that there's 12 games, everybody gets a break somewhere along the way, and your rivalry weekend is no longer Thanksgiving Saturday, but the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Then you turn Thanksgiving weekend into conference championship weekend. And then the following weekend, and I know exams have to matter, but as another person hit us and said, FCS figures it out. And you know what? Newsflash, they go to school too. They take exams too. I promise you. They do. They have classes. They have exams. Their school matters. So D2, D3, NAIA. So you can figure this out.
They figure it out.
And
Yeah.
let's be
FCS
honest.
hasn't
And
figured it
let's
out.
be honest. Because I've having now a daughter that's in grad school, a daughter that just graduated from Carolina, and a sophomore in college. I hate to sound like old dude, but it ain't the way it used to be. My girls mostly say, "Yeah, we don't really have it like like a final anymore. Like when they're maybe a high level, like a 400 class, they probably have something, but otherwise it's like the last test of the semester." My point being, it's not like it used to be where you had to really start cramming to remember the entire semester while also trying to play football or whatever else.
Even that's news to me because I graduated college in 2019 and I definitely had to.
In some classes, yes, but
cramming,
I mean, but a lot of it now is a little bit different. So anyway, the point is you can make all of it work, and then you can still basically have a college football championship like the second week of January as opposed to the third week or whenever it was, what was usually about a week-ish after New Year's Day. Heck, you could find a way if you really wanted to turn New Year's Day back into a day where you had a championship game. But if not, then you could do it a week later.
Yeah, that started
And
in
I think
August,
that's
man.
and
Start earlier in August.
Yeah, they can. They can. They may not, but they can. I think it's a mix of a lot of things, but I do think there probably is for, again, that casual fan that the networks try to grab. They're probably like, all right, I might tune in for a minute. And that's probably why the audience peaked at around 8:30. Like, all right, Ohio State's winning, huh? All right, I'll check my phone later.
Yeah, especially when they get up 31-7. I think a lot of people tuned out at that point because they're like, oh, well, it's Georgia TCU all over again.
Yeah. So, there's that part of it, but I think at this point, fixing it is easier said than done. We'll come back on the other side because Heather Dinich has a piece on ESPN.com today about the kind of chatter that she was overhearing when they had the CIP meeting as it related to the championship game. And there's a couple of things in there that are somewhat interesting, but I'll say it like this as we head to the break. I don't think this system, the way it is currently being run, this 1 year, I think they've learned enough to this won't fly on an annual basis.
No, something needs to change, but I don't think I even like to use the word broken. I think you just need to adjust.
No, you're still
things,
tweaking.
because at the end of the day, you still got 22 million people to watch.
And that's good. But I think they'd like
it can be better.
I think they'd like to hit that 30 mark. And I know there's one other thing that a lot of people have asked as it relates to Disney's ownership of the rights, and we'll touch on that for you too. Plus, coming up at the bottom of the hour, our good friend Brad Muller will be with us previewing Carolina LSU, which again is not tonight at 8, but instead tomorrow at 5 because of the really awful winter weather in Baton Rouge. They couldn't get out of town until today, rather. Couldn't get out yesterday, so game delayed by 21 hours. We did that math yesterday too. Again, see, there's my college.
You earned that degree.
Appreciate that. Lots more to do as the post-game show rolls on from Craft to Draft. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you, broadcasting live from the Irmo location of Craft and Draft. Of course, they have two. They've got the one down in Shandon on Divine Street, not too far from where yours truly is, but it is nice to be out this way, in all seriousness. I know I talk a lot about not getting too far out of the
bubble,
out of the downtown Columbia bubble, which I don't very often.
It's a fun bit.
I mean, look, I used to every day when we worked 8 miles away at the old building, which you've never even been to.
Yeah, never been to,
So,
never seen with my own eyes.
And I'm not going to lie, I've kind of missed passing that Krispy Kreme on Knox Abbott a lot because, you know what? I often stopped in and grabbed myself some Krispy Kremes. And
whenever that light's on.
You know what I don't pass on my way to work now?
A Krispy Kreme.
There you go. So,
oh, dude. Man, it's one of those things, like, great marketing. Anytime I see the light is on at Krispy Kreme, we're going to test how good my brakes are.
Yeah, it's good.
Because I'm hauling ass.
Have you had any of the Krispy Kreme Pop-Tart donuts yet?
No.
I haven't either, but I need to.
No.
Yeah, they have like three, or I think they have
fantastic.
3 or 4 Pop-Tart inspired donuts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's all I know. That's all I know. But I had somebody
about to ruin this headset from drooling on it.
Send me a text a couple weeks ago and said, "Have you had any of these yet?" And I was like, "I have not. I did hear about it, but I need to go get some. I hope they're still around." I don't know. Where's the closest Krispy Kreme to here? I guess it might be that one.
Maybe.
How do they not have a Krispy Kreme out here?
Or everywhere?
Well, I get it's hard to have them everywhere because you got to have that big old kitchen that makes all those hot donuts. At least their competitor has like a big factory. They just truck them to all their different locations.
And they're a little fresher.
But at Krispy Kreme, you got to make them in the store.
See, I never I was about 19 or so until I had like a fresh batch of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh
I lived in towns my entire life up to that point where we never had a Krispy Kreme there, right? Very small rural areas. And so I just thought they all tasted like the ones that you get at Walmart that you just buy there, right?
Oh my!
And then
it changed your life. Didn't
Cookeville, Tennessee, got a Krispy Kreme, and a buddy of mine was like, "You've never had them warm, have you?" I'm like, no. He goes, "We're gonna drive by and see if the light's on, and if they're on, we're getting some." And sure enough, the light was on, and I had them, and I got sick because I ate so many that night.
I believe you.
It changed my life. Changed my life forever.
Especially at that age, I might equate it just to a few other things, but I'm not gonna. But I could. In the meantime,
you ain't wrong though. I mean, honestly, I know where you're going with that, and I think I concur. I'm not gonna lie. I think
we'll finish the conversation.
Share that one off air, buddy.
In the fourth hour of today's program,
the postgame show after.
That's right. Yeah. In the meantime, Heather Dinich of ESPN reporting on a few things around potential changes to the college football playoff format. We have our poll question running. We'll get back into that in a little bit. Amongst the things she says she heard was a potential of having play-in games. Now, if you missed this the other day, the ACC says their commissioner, Jim Phillips, said, no relation, and I'm making that abundantly clear when I talk about him in this case. One. Yeah, in this particular case. I'm sure he's doing a fine job overall, but in this case, I'm like, what? He said that his league's leadership will have discussions about potentially having the regular season champion of the Atlantic Coast Conference get a bye. In other words, they would just be the champion and not play.
It's not a bye
in the champion. And I'm like, well,
they use that word in the article, and I'm like, that's not a bye because it's not a tournament.
You're just giving them the title. That's not how it works. And then he said the other thing they were thinking about was on the last week of the regular season, having teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 play each other. And then those winners would be in the ACC championship game, to which I kind of reminded him from afar. And I asked Elijah this. There are 4 schools in the ACC that have rivalries with teams in the SEC. Are you going to tell, and let's just say for the sake of the discussion, because it's not at all improbable, that Clemson, Florida State, Louisville, and Georgia Tech might be teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 in any given season.
Yeah.
And you're just going to tell them, oh, yeah, well, y'all need to play each other now. You're not playing your in-state rival. And have Jim Phillips be the one who calls the in-state rival from the SEC. Yeah, hey, listen, Nah,
Hey, Georgia, South Carolina,
sorry, Florida,
Florida, Kentucky.
y'all. I know y'all had them scheduled. I know you got things going on. Yeah, no.
I know this is the biggest moneymaker in your local economies, but we're gonna have to pass. We have an ACC tournament.
And
play.
if I may, real quick, like it's fine that if you're having like a brainstorming session at the offices up in Charlotte, that somebody might have thrown that out. But quite honestly,
all ideas are welcome in a brainstorming session.
But that got out to be a floated trial balloon in a article by Heather Dinich or Stuart Mandel or whoever. Like, no. Like you can't let that doesn't leave because somebody has to. Jim Phillips needs to look at whoever whatever underlings brought that up and be like, yeah, I get where you're going. I appreciate the theoretical concept. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's like that scene in Billy Madison where it's like, what you just said was the most incoherent rambling. And at no point in your incoherent rambling did you ever say anything that resembled a rational thought.
Right.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
It's just kind of silly.
A simple no would have been fine.
Right. So, yeah. That's a good movie, man.
All-timer.
If there's one thing that I think most of us are getting behind, it's a seating change. And I do think that's actually going to happen. Heather says she has one FBS commissioner who said, we had good intentions for doing things the way we did, but when you actually have real life examples and see how they pan out, we may need to look at that. Now they would still award 5 slots to the 5 highest ranked conference champions. But 4 of them would not be guaranteed seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4. And to the point of whichever anonymous FBS commissioner that is, I'm for that. Much like the NFL does. You know, you win your division, you're going to get a home game in the playoffs. You have to give them something for winning it. Now, there are some people in the NFL who have said division winners can still get into playoffs, but we should reseed based on record. And I don't think the NFL owners want to do that because, for one thing, a bunch of them that vote on that one day might be the team that's 8-9 or 9-8 and gets to host the team that's 13-4 or whatever.
It might be the 2010 Seattle Seahawks.
So, and anything that changes has to be unanimous. The seeding thing, I think, will happen. How they look at the calendar, to me, is going to be the most interesting. If they can find a way, can you do it this year? I doubt it. But how they look at the calendar and when they start, and if realizing that the 3rd week of January is too late for a title game, that'll be very telling. But they have another meeting scheduled here soon. I know that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, that's Big Ten SEC commissioners, are going to meet kind of separately because they still feel like they wield a heavier amount of power. I think they're right. Exactly how they decide to carry that big stick remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. But they'll use it as best they can. I have no doubt of that. And then we're told that maybe by April, any potential changes that would come logistically would be made by then.
As it should. I mean, April better than September.
Yeah.
Half one might be a little too late.
But I've seen a bunch of people that have said conference championship games need to go away. That's not happening.
No, makes too much money.
It does. It's just too much of
too much money.
I mean, between ticket sales and between the fact that the conferences can sell those individually, that's just not happening.
No, I mean, once the conference championship games were introduced, you were never putting that toothpaste back in the tube, man. You never were, because it was a success.
Yeah, it works.
You can thank, if you don't like conference championship games, you can thank Doug Johnson for throwing the interception. Was it Doug Johnson for Florida? Yeah, threw that pick 6 that cost Florida the upset chance in '92 to beat Alabama in the first ever SEC championship game. Because that game was such a good game and such a success, everybody copied it afterwards. So if you don't like conference championship games, that's your culprit.
I promise you, Steve.
Go find Doug Johnson. Call Doug Johnson right now and bark at him.
Brad Muller on the other side of the break as we get ready for a huge top 5 matchup tomorrow over at CLA, Gamecocks and LSU. Brad will be with us when the post-game show returns. fantastic at what they do. No matter what your banking needs might be, Palmetto Citizens ready to help you out. Checking, savings, credit cards, car loans, student loans, home loans, equity lines of credit. Do it all better with the folks at Palmetto Citizens. And because they are not for profit, they return earnings to members in the form of lower rates and fewer fees. That means you get to keep more of your money in your pocket or wallet or, account. My wife and I are members. We love what they've done for us over the years, and I think you will too. Again, local, been in business since the 30s, ready to help you out at 14 local locations or online at palmettocitizens.org. Check out Palmetto Citizens today.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Clemson Road at Old Clemson Road. Got another one got two actually on 77 southbound. One's going to be before Killian Road and exit 22. The other one closer to I-26 near exit 1. We also have accidents on Mallet Hill Road at Sparkleberry Lane, Mineral Springs Road at US 378 and Sunset Boulevard, and on Paget Road at Carlo Road.
Time to talk a little Carolina women's basketball. Our buddy Brad Muller, the voice of the team, is with us. Again, if you have not yet heard, and by now I certainly hope you have, but if you didn't, yesterday it was announced by the two schools and the SEC that Carolina LSU, scheduled for tonight at 8, has been moved to tomorrow at 5 because of the just really bad winter weather that southern Louisiana got and parts of Texas and Mississippi. And, I mean, they got walloped big time. I mean, a foot of snow in some areas in southern Louisiana. But roads, airports closed all across Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and the team couldn't get out yesterday. They are able to get out today, and we'll be here in Columbia for tomorrow's game. And, Brad, as always, a pleasure to have you, sir. when did you find out about this, and how much of an impact, if any, do you believe this has on these two teams playing here in Columbia?
It's just a little bit of a break of routine, and both teams, going through the same thing. So I don't think it matters that much. It's an extra day, which is a little bit unusual, and for South Carolina, it works out, because they're not playing again until Monday instead of the traditional Sunday. So it works out fine. I found out about the same time everybody else did when the press release went out yesterday. So unfortunate, but certainly understandable. And hey, get home earlier tomorrow night. So that's just fine.
There you go.
I'm an old guy. I got to
Always a
go to bed
plus.
early. Yeah.
And shoot, you can even go out to dinner after the game and then go to bed. I mean, you can squeeze in more into your afternoon tomorrow night. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be fun.
Well, I want to revisit before we get into this LSU game. I kind of want to revisit what happened on Sunday against Oklahoma, because one of the things that we talked about with you was the challenge that Oklahoma presents, having a strong interior presence with Reagan Beers and playing the tempo that they do, one of the fastest in all women's college basketball, the amount of threes by volume that they shoot. It makes it a unique challenge. And I think my biggest conclusion, Brad, from Sunday was, if your goal is to push the tempo and make South Carolina play faster, I highly suggest you rethink your strategy.
No, exactly. That worked out well for the Gamecocks. And let's be honest, that was one of the best games I think South Carolina had played all year. Oklahoma's a good basketball team, and I think it's one of those days where they ran into a buzzsaw. And South Carolina was hitting on all cylinders on both ends of the floor, and it was great to see. Shots were going down early and often. They were doing a good job on the glass. They were taking care of the basketball. I think they only had 6 turnovers in the game. So it was one of those things where you just hope South Carolina can replicate that performance in all aspects, because they were certainly hitting on all cylinders, offensively and defensively. They did, defensively was amazing. They didn't allow Beers to go nuts, even though she had some stats at the end of the game. When the game was still a game, she was not a factor, and neither was their top guard, who had scored 38 points in the most recent game prior to that. And I think South Carolina held her to 3. So, overall, just really have to be happy with what you saw on both ends of the floor.
Brad, you've been around this program a long time. We know a few years back there was a kind of an interesting rivalry with Missouri that developed. We saw a little kind of mini rivalry with Kentucky for a bit. Tennessee kind of speaks for itself as what they're about in women's basketball. But this rivalry with LSU is starting to feel very different, and it's coming at a time when women's basketball is capturing the attention of the nation in ways it never has. What makes this one, from your unique nightly vantage point, maybe different and a little stronger than some of the ones I just mentioned?
Well, I think it goes back to what we've always talked about with football. The rivalry is always better when both teams are ranked, and I think that's what makes this great. You got the last 2 national champions; they're 2 of the most visible, 2 of the more visible programs in the country, and 2 of if you want to say 3 most famous coaches that are still coaching in women's college basketball. Well, these are 2 of them, right? The other one's up in Storrs, Connecticut. So you've got Dawn Staley and Kim Mulkey, who have both won multiple national championships. Dawn with 3 and Kim's won 4. And again, and back-to-back national champions with these 2 teams combined. They both have great teams. They're both sending players to the professional ranks. There's been a lot of charismatic players for both these teams, especially in the last couple of years. For the Gamecocks, going back to 2 years ago, you had the Aaliyah Bostons, and everybody, and then with LSU, the Angel Reese and the Flau'jae Johnson, and then South Carolina again with last year with Camilla, obviously and Tina Powpow and everything that was going on last year, and then it just got. It hit another level, unfortunately, because of things that you don't want to see. The rivalry was good in its own because of how good both these teams are, being potential final people you'd expect to see in the Final Four, teams you expect to see in the Final Four year after year because of these 2 coaches and the talent they bring in. Then it was unfortunate that in the second meeting in the SEC tournament, as good as the game was, people are going to remember it for the little Donnybrook at the end. But you go back to that first game last year down in Baton Rouge, which was tremendous. LSU was the defending champs, and Gamecocks were down by 11 or 12 points and then come back and win it. in front of a packed house there in Baton Rouge. It was great. It was a great atmosphere. It felt like you usually don't like to put too much on a regular season game because it is just a regular season game. But I remember last year in Baton Rouge, I remember thinking, I feel like I'm at the Final Four because of the intensity that you had with the crowd and how much it meant, for LSU to be hosting that game and for South Carolina to come back and spoil the party. It was a lot of fun. And, obviously with South Carolina, as good as LSU has been, especially during the Kim Mulkey era, South Carolina's won 16 straight against the Tigers. And that's hard to, that's
Wow.
kind of head scratching because there's been some really good teams. And so, it's a heck of a rivalry, but knock wood, let's hope it stays this way. But in terms of wins and losses, it's been one-sided.
And Brad gets giant bonus points for the use of the word Donnybrook in the last answer. So there's
you have that on your bingo card? Yeah.
I did not, but I
had kerfluffle on mine.
Okay.
So if we can find a way to squeeze that one in here, we might win me some money, but I think that counts as tainting the jury pool there. So we'll roll on that later. But Brad, this LSU team poses a different challenge than last year's. I mean, Angel Reese leaves. This team is still the number one offensive rebounding team in terms of percentage. I think on Bart Torvik says they grab about 45% of their missed shots, and they have probably one of the deeper guard rooms in terms of just like point guard, shooting guard, with Flage, with Michaela Williams. This is still a unique challenge. I don't think they're anywhere near as battle tested as South Carolina is, but from just looking at the resume. But this team without Angel Reese looks different, but they still seem to be as potent as they were at times last year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the LSU is 20-0, and yes, they did play. They have not played as difficult a schedule in the non-conference as South Carolina did. When you just look at the number of ranked teams, they played a lot of schools where you sit there and say, why are you playing those? But they've won all the games and they've been clutch too. I think they've won 2 or 3 games with shots at the buzzer or in the final second. So it's not a team that quits, but they haven't missed a step. I mean, Angel Reese was obviously a terrific player, but with the personnel they have this year, they are absolutely, fantastic. And Nisa Morrow, who was really the number 2 last year, if you will, in their double post that they had last year, she is a one-woman wrecking crew. I mean, she's averaging nearly 19 points a game, over 14 rebounds per game. You're right, LSU leads the SEC. They're like plus 19 in the rebound department for every game, and she's a big part of that. And she's not overly tall, but she's a big body, and she's so athletic, and she just gets a great job of boxing out and getting positioning and reading balls off the rim that she's a force down there. She had 2 double-doubles against the Gamecocks last year. And then the guards you mentioned, Flau'jae Johnson, in addition to Morrow, is an SEC Player of the Year candidate, averaging 20 points a game. She can do it on both ends of the floor. She's the kind of player everybody wished they had because she can do a little bit of everything. For South Carolina fans, if Tiffany Mitchell from a few years back, superwoman kind of thing. Michaela Williams is another really good guard. She was the freshman of the year last year. She's averaging 17 points a game. That this starting unit for LSU is as good as you're going to see from anywhere in the country.
Brad, last thing for you real quick. Coach Staley had the big hat on last night at courtside at the game, and she had it on this morning on a visit on SEC Network. Can we expect one Brad Muller to have the giant oversized novelty hat courtside tomorrow during the game?
Well, I don't know if they'd let me because I'd probably be blocking someone's view, but I've got a huge dome, so it would probably fit me like a regular hat. It probably people wouldn't notice because my hat size is like 7 7/8. So I mean it may not but it just might block someone's view. I think the more interesting outfits will be on the coaching staff. We'll see if Coach Staley is donning any Eagles gear, even though it's not a Sunday. She usually wears Eagles, gear on Sunday games. We'll see. And Kim Mulkey, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there it is right there.
We'll see what bird Kim Mulkey had to kill to make her outfit.
Well, Brad Muller may have a literal big head, but he would never be told or said that he has a figurative big head because he's about the nicest person that we work with on a regular basis.
He would not kill a bird to make his outfit.
That's right. Good stuff as always, sir. We appreciate you. Have a great call tomorrow. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
You bet. That is Brad Muller, SC Brad 92, to follow along on Twitter. 5 o'clock tomorrow, 4:30 airtime right here, Carolina and LSU. This is the postgame show. Ten minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay and Elijah with you. We are at Craft and Drafts Irmo location. Thanks to Kellen and the crew for having us out here. We're trying to grab him a little bit later on and talk about what's going on Saturday, as Elijah likes to say.
Saturday.
Their sci-fi anniversary, their 5th anniversary of this location, celebrating it with some fun sci-fi themed events. They are currently decorating, getting ready for that right now. I just noticed that big fancy chandelier in there too. Did you notice that?
Oh wow! Well, I didn't notice it until you
I
pointed
didn't
it out.
either. Yeah, I just kind of looked in there.
They got a nice projector over there too. So I need to go check the
Hey,
room out. They
event
probably-
space, man. If you want, you can kind of like rent that back room out, the arcade, and that arcade's. I mean, I'm telling you, man. There's solid like 1980s vibes going on back there, man.
Hear me out with that projector there. Nintendo 64, Madden 2002 tournament. Who says?
Oh
no?
wow, okay. Now see,
Who
I was
says
thinking
no?
just arcade day, and then like throw up like Back to the Future,
Okay.
or something like that. Just like have at it like total 80s day.
Total
back
80s day in there. Yeah.
Of course, for me, that would be reminiscing. For you, that'd be like, oh, this is what you guys did, huh?
See, if we ever had to go true 80s, it's like wear what you wore in the 80s. It'd be like I just won't exist.
Well,
I can't be here because I didn't exist.
Here's the thing. With the
Wasn't
exception,
here for it.
like you might be surprised to learn this, but with the exception of like a members only jacket, I pretty much still wear like everything I wear because I never really, Levi's jeans,
Your
sneakers,
fashion style.
t-shirts, button downs. That really had, like polo shirts have been around a while, man. So
Yeah, props to you for maintaining that consistency throughout your life. See, I still look at pictures of like me in high school, and it's all very like dated.
Yeah,
right. Like I had like the Justin Bieber haircut. Like
Okay.
I had all of that.
Yeah.
I definitely rocked like the cargo shorts, Air Apostle t-shirts. I like there. It was very late aughts, early teens. I definitely dressed. Middle school, man, fuzzy Crocs, and I wore fuzzy Crocs. I had the plaid shorts. My grandparents bought me plaid shorts a lot.
I have a pair.
I was very in at the time.
Yeah. I have a pair of fuzzy Crocs, but I
Wore
think
those to school all the
I
time,
think
dude.
my-
The 8th grade, I wore those out.
Yeah, if I wore them out of the house, I think my daughters would, if they found out, they would like that's not my dad.
They would publicly disown
Like, I
you.
don't,
Yeah.
no, they would like just like, I don't know who that- like, isn't that your dad over there? Like, nope.
Deny you twice.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, thrice, and we're in trouble.
Thrice,
Right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I remember that story. Before we get out of here this hour, really update the poll question. If I can get back to my Twitter, I don't call it the other thing.
That's Twitter.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hang on, but it doesn't want to cooperate with me. Here we go. All right. The question has to do with the college football playoff championship game being lower rated this year by 12%. Why was it down so much? A, too late in January. B, a dislike of both teams. C, college football fatigue. D, inauguration and MLK Day all on the same day. Right now, 40% of you still say it's in fact, these numbers, even though we've had more votes, the percentages have remained exactly the same. That's rare. 40% dislike of both teams. 26% too late in January. 17% each fatigue and inauguration day. A couple of other comments to get to. Let's see. Joe says all but fatigue. Okay. Don't like any of them, and it was too late, but he still loves college football.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's one. Playoffs dragged on way too long. Championship should be the first Saturday in January. Adjust the season if needed to make it happen.
Yeah.
All games on campus except for the championship game. Play all games on Saturdays. I like most of that. I like adjusting the season.
Mm-hmm.
All games on campus until the title game. Amen, brother. Here for that. Not going to happen, unfortunately, but I'm here for that. Play all games on Saturdays. I'll tell you this. The reason they don't play these games on Saturdays is, once again, it's the casual viewer on television that they are seeking. They, as you and I have talked about, people like you and me, and probably most of our audience right now, if you said the college football championship game is Wednesday at 4 a.m. Tune in. We'll be there.
I'd be like, all right, I'd be up at 2:30.
But
Ready.
the casual viewer isn't. And on Saturdays, that casual viewer may be out at a movie, dinner, the club, whatever. They're not watching television on Saturday night. But on Monday night, they're back at home going to work and school the next day. And that's why these college games are on Monday night. Like it or not, that's why they're on Monday.
Saturday would just be more fun.
They
Agreed.
would. I agree. Headlines of the day and so much more, including a drive around the SEC, coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Cushman Drive at Faro Road. Got another one on I-20 westbound at Alpine Road near exit 76B. Got two on 77 southbound, one just before Killian Road near exit 22, the other at I-26 near exit 1. Lastly, we have an accident reported on Mineral Springs Road at US 378 and Sunset Boulevard. here we go.
And it is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. Final hour of the postgame show coming at you. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell broadcasting live from Craft and Draft in Irmo today. Ed Bird at Master Control downtown. We start with last night's performance at Colonial Life Arena, which for about 59 minutes and change was good for South Carolina. And then it wasn't.
It wasn't. A funny thing, that was kind of the theme.
I guess
in the
39
SEC.
minutes. Sorry, 39 minutes. It's
yes.
not a football game. 39 minutes.
39 minutes.
Yeah.
That was kind of the theme in the SEC last night.
Yeah, Georgia and Ole Miss.
Because here's a fun stat for you. In 3 college basketball games, Jay Phillips, that's 120 minutes of basketball.
There it is.
Georgia, South Carolina, and Ole Miss led for a combined 119 minutes and 40 seconds of those possible 120 minutes.
That's brutal.
So you're like, wow, Elijah, those teams must have gone 3-0 in those games. Those teams went 0-3.
That's brutal.
And they led for 119 minutes and 40 seconds of a possible 120 minutes.
South Carolina last night had a 14-point lead with under 13 minutes to play, watched it dwindle away, and we have talked a lot, you and I, about this. And I think Coach Paris has a cut. Bring that over to me. I don't have a cut list today, so I'm looking at Elijah's. Ed, I'm going to have you in just a second pull up cut number 4 on today's list, but the turnovers late. I think you use the word timidity. I use the word fear. South Carolina just had a look of I don't know, and then at the end of the game, just despair is another word. I mean, I'm using these words that are a little bit larger than normal, other than something like
deflation.
Fear. Yeah, I mean, it was just
Tom Brady.
It was hard to watch. The interesting dichotomy of a guy like Zach Davis last night, who led the team in scoring.
Career high in points.
It's 22 last night, but also had 5 second half turnovers. And the amount of turnovers in the, when Florida went to the full court press, Lamont made a point in postgame, and I know you were there, of basically saying, and I'll let you take more of this, but hey, I figure 1 or 2 of them, they might get us. And then the rest of it, we'd figure it out.
Because you don't see that at the college game. At the college game, usually that's why teams don't press the entire game. Even teams that make their living on defense with a lot of ball pressure, and you'll see them maybe extend their defense out. Even like, the havoc defenses of Shaka Smart and VCU weren't pressing the entire game, because you know what happens? Good passing teams will get that ball past half court. Once that ball gets past half court, it becomes a 3-on-2 essentially. And then the other team's going to score more often than not. You press to force some turnovers, and then you ultimately revert back to that defense. It's one of the reasons why we don't see teams press full court, because we've evolved as basketball teams, and the better passing teams now can be able to beat that. Every team's got a press beater in their offense, right? That usually consists of 1 or 2 passes that advance the ball. They get the ball into the middle of the floor and then advance the ball past half court. That's usually the plan, and that usually breaks a press after about 5 or 6 possessions, right? But not when you keep turning the ball over. That's, I think, what got Lamont so, I don't want to say flustered, flabbergasted.
Right.
I think he was just shocked to see his team time and time again fail to be able to contain their composure against that press, because in modern college basketball, you don't see one team get pressed to death in a game in the manner that they got pressed to death last night.
Yeah. Ed, let's roll that cut. Here's Lamont last night, part of the postgame response on just what he thinks should have gone on.
It's not easy at all. I mean, you've had your struggles. You've played well enough in a lot of games, if you look at it, honestly. And then here's another one where you played even better. You played even better. You did the game. The overall body of work in the game was such that we should have won the game. Period. That's it. Except for you didn't. We didn't take it. It was there for the taking. We had to do some basic things that I think would have allowed us to win. Dribble real hard in one direction, cross half court, jump stop, pivot a whole bunch. If 2 guys are on your call timeout, find it to an open guy. There were some basic things like they're not known for pressing like that. They had to. It was their only way. It's the only way that they were going to do it, and the only way it was going to work is if we coughed it up, and we did cough it up. And we coughed it up right in live turnovers, right in the transition. Then even when we get into half court, we made some turnovers as we got frazzled. It just was, that was a tough one. It's a tough one. It's hard. Guys got to be confident again as they move forward. But what does that really look like if you're in that situation and you don't bring it to the finish line to have true confidence?
On that note, before I have Elijah say anything more from what he saw in postgame, Ed, cut number 6, please. Coach just alluded to it. There are still 12 games left in the conference slate, including one at home on Saturday afternoon against a team that beat you by 35 points when you saw them at their place just 3 weeks ago. What next for South Carolina?
You can still lose. And there's nothing to do except for play. Sure. And that's it. You got to find it. I have to find it. I'm constantly looking into the rotations. I'm in there in the locker room after this talking about what could I have done. Could I have had, one of our stronger guys bring the ball up like Colin, but he is high in turnovers for us. I don't know if that makes sense, but against his own man, maybe it would have made some sense. I don't know. You got to pick yourself up and you got to get to the next thing, right? I'm not going to stop coaching. We're not going to stop doing our thing, and they got to play. The games aren't going to stop coming. You have to play, and you have to get with your basketball gods. I say this all the time, your own personal individual basketball god, and make it right with him so that when it comes down to your abilities, you have true confidence in those things, right? It's one thing, this guy banked a shot in and that's how we lost. The ref made a terrible call and that's how we lost. When it comes down to your abilities, your ability to pass to a teammate, your ability to make a free throw late in the game, your ability, that's where your confidence in your heart of hearts is going to be shaken when you don't perform. And so I think there's some real challenges for some of these guys to have to search inward and look inward to find the true confidence that they need to continue to move forward.
Coach Lamont Paris after Carolina falls again 70-69, the final score last night. You were in the room post game. That was on courtside with Derek here on the Gamecock Radio Network. Give us all, from a player and coach perspective, a body language assessment after. And I realize in the moment it's going to be different than it may be today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But give us what you felt in the room when the guys came in.
Yeah, Zach Davis and Colin Murray Boyles were the ones who spoke post game to the media afterwards, and there was still, I think, kind of a feeling of trying to process exactly what happened,
like shock,
like a whole lot of shock, because especially. Even I was still trying to process exactly what just happened because, Florida takes the lead with 4 seconds left. That's the first lead of the game. Next thing you know, Jacoby's shooting the ball. Horn goes off. Game's over, right? Your fortunes changed in about 17 seconds of real time. You went from shooting a free throw to give yourself a chance to go up by 2 and maybe, go to overtime. You still felt comfortable because you had not comfortable, but you still, had the lead like you did the entire game. And then you finally lost that lead. And then in 4 seconds of real time, having to get a shot and win the game. I think there was still that level of shock in trying to process exactly what happened. Obviously, the answers were short. There was still some, a little bit of, I guess, some retrospect that they're going through. Like, they still analyzed, I guess, the game, like, not thoroughly, but I think they were still very self-aware, I guess is what I'm trying to put, as of what happened. And there was a lot of, we got to go ahead and move on. And, like, here's the thing. Someone can tell you that after something big happened, that they have to move on, but it's going to take a while. What happened last night, the opportunity that slipped out of your fingertips was so great that, and I love Zach Davis, love talking to him, but he said, I've already moved on to the next game. I don't think I believe that because I know
what you mean.
You kind of have to let it hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
I think hurt is actually,
you got to let it hurt.
It can be a good thing if used properly. Yes.
But I know what he was trying to say. He's trying to move on. But at the same time, I think you kind of have to let it hurt. And I think that they were hurting pretty bad in that situation. And with Lamont, I think there was just a trying to come to grips with exactly what happened and trying to understand how that could have happened. I think I don't want to say they all were sitting on their resting on their laurels, once you got a 14-point lead halfway through the second half, but there is that same level of what the hell did we just watch?
Yeah.
That is with everybody on the team in that situation.
Yeah, no, it's a tough one, man, and you hope they get over it in time. A quick turnaround. Again, Saturday afternoon at 1, Mississippi State comes into town. Again, having beaten Carolina by 35 points last time they saw each other.
Yeah,
Just
and that was Collins' worst
ago.
game, and that was one of those games where they absolutely put you in a torture chamber defensively.
Right.
That you fell into the trap that Mississippi State wants to put you into, and that's dribbling that ball in that short corner, double teaming you, forcing turnovers, and making sure you have zero fun shooting the ball because you're not comfortable doing so. That's what they do best, and it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see exactly how they adjust to that and what they do differently this time. And it'd be encouraging to see a different type of offensive result.
We'll have a little bit more from Coach Paris coming up for you in just a few. Meantime, as we continue our integrated media headlines of the day, the North Carolina football long nightmare is over. Bill Belichick has officially signed his contract. He will make $10 million per season. The school is it's interesting that they're almost touting that the school's only paying him $1 million, and that the other $9 million comes from what they're calling supplemental income. Well, yeah, that's pretty standard.
Yeah,
that's pretty standard
across the board.
Yeah,
in every state.
He immediately becomes one of the 10 highest paid coaches in college football. Kirby Smart still has the top spot at $13 million per year. If North Carolina makes the playoff, he gets a bonus of $750,000. If they win the national title, he would get $1.75 million. His bowl bonus is $150,000, and he gets $350,000 if the team makes an elite bowl. And I love this,
which is definitely the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
It is, yes.
It better be the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl, the Gator Bowl, and the Mayo Bowl are considered elite non-playoff games.
This is the world I want to live in.
Who's labeling? Who's labeling these with elite?
I am. I am. If you're not getting dumped on with food after you win one of these bowl games, you're not playing an elite bowl game.
We asked.
You're simply not.
Remember, well, I think last year you and I did. No, maybe you weren't. We weren't working together yet. Shane had the Mayo dumped on him.
I remember that.
Right, and then next year they went to the Gator Bowl. And I was like, so what is this like? You got to swim with alligators. You got baby alligators chomping on you.
Tax Act Gator Bowl. So were you going to get? Were they going to pour like W-2s on him?
Pay his taxes.
Yeah. Shane Beamer doused by W-2s.
And now you have the edible
paper cuts galore.
The edible mascot. But I got to go out on it. Well, I mean, Gator Bowl, perhaps. I'm not sure if I'm ready for the Pop-Tarts and Mayo Bowls to be.
Yes, you are.
I mean,
you are.
Elite.
Yeah, you are.
6-6 teams go to the Mayo Bowl, man.
But only the most fun of coaches get doused in Duke's Mayo after they win it.
Yeah, listen, these
notoriety.
two schools, the two Carolinas played in that game. And I'm not, listen, any bowl game you go to is good because you get the practices and all that. I'm not here to rag on that too much, but
it's elite to me.
I try to reserve elite. Like Carolina went to the Citrus Bowl. That's like
elite.
That's like never, if you had the New Year's
Bowl.
6, then most people would agree that the Citrus Bowl is ranked like 7
because Cheez-It sponsors it.
Well, that's fine with me, man. I mean, again, if you just want to call it the Cheez-It Bowl,
which it did for a while. I still like the Citrus Bowl.
Well, I think the Cheez-It Bowl became the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Did it?
Yeah.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Because that was...
Yeah, the Cheez-It, because that's why I asked you. I was like, so wait, they got a Cheez-It Bowl and a Pop-Tarts Bowl, and Cheez-It is sponsoring the Citrus Bowl? And you were like, no.
Camping World Bowl, too.
Well, that's a Camping World Stadium. Yeah, that same, that same thing. Same thing. So, yeah, but the Cheez-It Bowl became the Pop-Tarts Bowl because they're owned by the same company. Kellogg's, Sunshine, it's all one big company now.
Yeah, and they're never going back to that. I think that's been as much of a success.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
They ain't going back.
And again, if Coach Belichick were to go to the NFL or somewhere else before June 1, he has to pay them that $10 million. But it's just $1 million buyout come June the 2nd. So on June the 3rd, he'll be an NFL coach.
That's right. Tom Brady will then make the call.
Tommy coming back. No, it's not going to happen. So
Did anyone get them in the
congratulations
same room at the same time. I don't know if they'll ever do that.
to the Tar Heel fans. The contract has been signed. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more. Call our good friends at Integrated Media. More on the Gamecocks, more on today's poll question as well when the post-game show returns to Craft and Draft. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you. We are broadcasting live from Craft and Draft's Irmo location. Y'all come see us. Come say hey. We're only here till 6, but I mean, they'll be here till later.
I'll have a beer after this. I'll be chilling. If you're a little late to the party.
Yeah, I might take one with me. I got, again, I got a long trek. It was like 6 hours back to my house, man.
Yeah, I mean,
or 20 minutes, but either way.
That's a venture. I mean, some, in the Lord of the Rings universe might call that a quest.
It is. It is.
It is quite the quest for you to be able to get back home.
But Terry and Elijah and Tyler were attempting. Well, they had fun at my expense, but they were attempting to have more fun. But it doesn't bother me.
You were impeccable.
Again, I freely admit that I rarely go too far. I have always lived, and look, it ain't like this is Manhattan. Right. Like I live in Manhattan and I have to come out to Queens or something. That's not how it is. But I have said I have always lived within about 3 miles of the State House, like my whole life, and in the city.
That's impressive.
So like not on the other side of the river. No, I mean, I got friends that live on the other side of the river. It's fine. There's not a lot of nice stuff over there in Casey, West Columbia. But I've always lived in town, Shandon or over near Sarge Fry for like 10 years. That's where I lived on South Bull. And now I live just a little bit away. So I just don't come out. Everything I need is within. I mean, I do all the kind of stuff at Carolina. I used to work at the State House. Now I work across the street from the State House. But like I said, there are days when I've
never had to leave that spot.
There are days when I miss driving the 8-ish miles to work when we worked across the river. Because I passed, as I said, Krispy Kreme, Piggy Park. There's an Arby's right there, and I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Arby's.
Arby's is overrated.
There's an Arby's right down the street here too.
Arby's is overrated. It will not be seeing my face.
It's good. I'm not saying it's like awesome, but I like Arby's.
I have beef with Arby's. I just don't think it's very good.
Yeah. See, I think you wanted to make a pun there, and then you.
Kind of. I have some real roast beef with Arby's, and it's with their roast beef. Overrated.
Yeah, it's good. But actually, honestly, I like the chicken. What was the one with the chicken cordon bleu sandwich they had? Remember that one? It's like chicken and like bacon and ham and cheese.
I don't think I ever want to eat that from a fast food joint.
All right, it's good, man.
See, at this point, my Arby's hatering has become quite a bit, and that was one I had friends back home who.
Did you get in a fight at Arby's? Did somebody break up with you at an Arby's, or you just?
It's a bit now that I can't go back on.
Okay.
Because I might try it and like it now, but I can't because it goes against the bit.
Beef and cheddar's good, man. Yeah. I don't know what that plastic cheese is awesome.
I mean, as somebody who grew up eating, spray cheese and celery, that was a snack of my childhood. Yeah, I mean, I've eaten more processed cheese than that, so that wouldn't deter me.
That stuff's good, man. I'm down. So all right, well, that's cool. Anyway, but I'm out here and it's nice. I'm glad I am. But I may get a to-go beer from the cooler.
And there is quite the selection.
There is.
My God.
A lot of beer.
Looking at it right now.
Yeah, a lot of beer.
I'm very indecisive. I might stand in front of that fridge for like 20 minutes trying to pick something.
I won't take that long, but I'll get out here for a bit and figure it all out.
Indecisive individual.
So one more that I wanted to get to, and I have to go back to it and find it. Ed Bird, cut number 12, Ed, on today's list, please. Cut number 12. This is Lamont Paris. Again, you're 0-6. 3 times you got your butt kicked. But the other 3 games you lost by a combined 7 points. And 2 of those games were the top 5 teams in America. So now that you're 0-6, you still got a dozen games left. Here's Lamont on keeping his guys positive.
Certainly I worry about that. And I think every coach would acknowledge that. I've heard it from a variety of coaches that you have to be able to do that no matter who you think you are, right? Okay, so we haven't won a game yet, but there's someone else out there that's, let's say Florida, right, who was ranked number 5, and you should have won the game. Let's say Auburn, who was ranked number 2, looking forward to being number 1, and we should have won the game. They also would have to say, hey, we got to put that behind us and get on to the next game because you're going to play a really good team in the next game. So I think certainly you worry about it because kids' confidence is a little more fragile in 2025, as I've discovered. And so particularly when if you got guys that have made a couple of bad plays, again, it's one thing if it's a pretty clean game all the way around, evenly matched, and then they throw a sky hook in from the other free throw line. It is what it is, right? But, we're going to have some guys that have to look and say, wow, if I could have just done these couple of things, we win against a top 5 team. And so that's where you worry about where guys' confidence is because those things were ability related for the most part. So the natural tendency is to question yourself. Can I do that? The same way as if I call my favorite play 23 skidoo and it was the absolute wrong play to call, I have to question my decision in that moment, right? You just do. And so I think there'll be some of that. So
Lamont Paris last night, South Carolina again gutted by a 70-69 loss to the number 5 Florida Gators, a game in which South Carolina was up 14 points at home in the second half and found a way to let it slip.
He should have called the play 23 skidoo a little more, it sounds like.
Well, this is one,
favorite play.
You mentioned earlier a comparison, not to say that this is going to happen. Again, not a prediction. But covering Vandy a couple of years ago when you were in Nashville and they went 0 for conference play. And I'm not suggesting Carolina is going to go 0 for conference play, but you got to find a way to pick yourself up again. I think you made a great point. I'm with you. We're not dogging on Zach Davis, but when Zach, is at the podium last night saying, "Yeah, I've already moved past it." Maybe in the moment you think you have, but today you're feeling it, and it hurts you, and it's okay. I don't think how Carolina played in Starkville was indicative of this team. I think we've seen that when you've played. Look, Vandy's different, but you pushed Auburn, you pushed Florida. That in and of itself, it's not a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
You played well.
Yep.
You did, and they are certainly Auburn and Florida too, but certainly Auburn. They're far more talented than you. So if you're Lamont, I coached them up.
Mm-hmm.
I got them prepared, and by and large, they were executing the plan.
For most of the 30 minutes of the game.
Where's the next step? What more do I have to do with this limited roster with injuries and guys that aren't as good? Yeah, I had a lot of you hit me from my text or my tweet last night. A lot of you hit me with the same refrain, and I completely agree. And I know you do too. They are missing. It's not that you're not dogging on the current guys, but they are missing Michi Johnson and Talon Cooper in ways that I don't think they were prepared for.
No, and in ways I didn't think they had missed this much too.
Right.
And I mean, I was kind of going through a lot of the numbers in terms of on-off, statistics with the offense. And it turns out, when Jamari Thomas was on the floor, the offense is about 7 points better per 100 possessions because at least that's a role that's filled, right? Jamari isn't the same as Talon. This isn't a knock on Jamari. It's more of a compliment as to how good Talon Cooper was. Talon Cooper was all SEC for a reason, right? And deservingly so. And you just haven't replaced him like for like, and that hurts you. You did not replace Michi Johnson like for like, and that hurts you. That's one of the reasons why you are where you're at right now. Guard play in the SEC is vital, and you just haven't been able to replace your losses like for like, and that's big. And when going back to the comparison to the 2018-19 Vanderbilt team that I covered that year, I mean, they were close in a lot of games too against great competition. Again, they took number 1 Tennessee to overtime and lost by 5 and had a lead for most of that game. Sound familiar? Yep. South Carolina, led against Auburn and led for a lot of that game, lost at the very end. And then the same thing to number 5, Florida. That Vanderbilt team went on the road and almost beat a really good Kentucky team at Rupp that year. That was a Kentucky team that, mind you, went to the Elite 8 that season. And they pushed them to the brink in that game. at Rupp Arena. But then after an accumulation of close losses, they quit. They quit, and they got beaten like a drum for the entire last month of the season. And that's one thing I really want to see this team avoid, to avoid becoming how that Vanderbilt team is viewed in history, especially with the ramifications that program took afterwards. It took them about 6 years to flip.
Yeah. Saturday, 1 o'clock, next chance, Gamecocks and Mississippi State. We'll talk to Caitlin Shire, part of the ownership group here at Craft and Draft. Big plans for them on Saturday as well. Maybe after the ball game, you could come enjoy that. And we'll have a drive around the SEC coming up. AAA Heating and Air, ready to keep you nice and comfortable this time of year. It's been cold. It'll warm up again soon enough. And then before you know it, it'll be back in like the 60s and 70s. But when it's really cold like it has been of late, and you had the furnace conk out on you or the heat pump go out on you or whatever it is that you use to stay warm, make sure you call our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. 803-677-1500 is the phone number. And if it's time for something brand new, Roy and Dana Finley giving you a fantastic opportunity. You get 12 months, no payments, no interest. You heard me right. You get guaranteed financing. You get a $1,500 system buyback rebate on your old system. $1,500, boom, right there for you. And a 15-year parts and labor guarantee. That's all from AAA Heating and Air. So if now's the time to do it, you need to call them up, 803-677-1500. Do what I've done, Bill Gunner, and many of your friends and neighbors. Stay nice and warm with AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few traffic accidents to report to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways. Starting with one at Calks Ferry Road at Old Charleston Road. Got another one on Cushman Drive at Farrow Road. One on Fish Hatchery Road between Meadowfield Road and Busby Road. One on I-20, that's going to be westbound over at Alpine Road near exit 76B. And lastly, one on Mineral Springs Road at US 378 and Sunset Boulevard.
And it is drive around the SEC time. It's also going to be a drive around craft and draft time. Welcome back in alongside Elijah Campbell. I am Jay Phillips. Caitlin Shire is with us here. She is part of the group that's in charge. I say group. She's in charge. Right? She's in charge.
Sort of.
That's
yeah.
how this works. Yeah. Last night, as Elijah mentioned, by the way, you want to give that stat again before we talk to Caitlin? Last night, South Carolina fell to Florida 70-69. A&M beat Mississippi 63-62. And Arkansas got its first win in conference play, beating Georgia 68-65. But give us that stat again from last night.
Yeah, it's 3 basketball games in which a total of 120 minutes of basketball was played. And South Carolina, Georgia, and Ole Miss led for 119 of those minutes and 40 seconds, meaning Georgia, Florida, and Texas A&M led for only 20 seconds. Would you like to guess which group of 3 teams went 3-0?
The teams that trailed the whole time.
Yes, the teams that only led for a combined 20 seconds. Those 3 teams won, and the teams that led for 119 minutes and 40 seconds all lost.
The winning teams all remarkable. Let's see, Florida outscored Carolina by 8 in the second half. Same thing for A&M, outscoring Ole Miss by 8 in the second half, and Arkansas outscored Georgia by 15 in the second half.
Nasty work in the SEC last night. I'm not going to lie. That was some nasty work.
Big comebacks.
Expert levels and blowing games
to get that one done. Again, Carolina men back at it Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock against Mississippi State. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Please remember that. Not tonight. Still hoping most of you have heard the news by now, and I think you probably have. But if you haven't, don't go to CLA tonight for Carolina LSU because they ain't there.
Nope. You will be there by yourself, maybe accompanied by a security guard.
Yeah.
You can maybe pay them to play a game
That'd
for
be fun.
you. As a former security guard myself, I would take a bribe to shoot baskets. Yes, absolutely. I would do it. But
without getting weird, like, can you also like bribe the security guard to dress like Kim Mulkey?
I think that might be a little too weird. And then if you ask me to put the lotion on the skin, it's going to get even weirder. But for the right price, I would.
Caitlin's like, what did I sign up for? what are we doing here? Also on tomorrow's program, the great Ryan McGee is going to be with us. We love Ryan, of course, ESPN writer and broadcaster and co-host with Marty. And our good friend Langston Moore will join us on tomorrow's program. And we only have half a show tomorrow. 4:30, we're out for Brad Muller and Carolina basketball. All right, Saturday. Am I saying it right? Is it the Sci-5 anniversary or Sci-5 anniversary?
Sci-5 anniversary.
Okay, because Sci-5 anniversary sounds like really even.
I'm a fan of combining.
Yeah,
that is cool.
So use that from this point on if you want to. But Caitlin Shire is with us here from Craft and Draft. So this is 5 years here
at Craft and Draft Irmo.
Yeah,
yes.
Because Shandon, it's like
we just had our 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yep. So this one opened right before COVID.
Right.
So that was, an adventure.
Sure.
We're still here, which we're so excited to celebrate. Every year has been just quite amazing. And we have such a great basis out here. And it's been awesome.
And it's a little bigger than the one in Shannon.
Just a little bit.
So, okay, now Sci-Fi anniversary, or again, if we're going to call it that, Sci-Fi anniversary. There's obviously, it's not just like, well, Sci-Fi. There's got to be something else going on.
Yeah, so we are both Kellen and Monroe and myself are big sci-fi fans. So every year we try to think of a fun theme, and then from there we do our like brewery collaborations, and then we get to name all these beers off of sci-fi movies and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the theme goes. Of course, we'll have decorations and stuff like that, and we have an anniversary T-shirt that's mocked after The Fifth Element, which is a great movie. So yeah, we just kind of pick a theme every year, and sci-fi was just coming together for us.
I know this won't be one of the ones that you have, but I will tell you this because you'll appreciate it. Have you been, by the way, to the Oga's Cantina at Disney?
No,
in the Galaxy's Edge?
Yeah.
Okay, so they have a cantina, and they have a beer that Sierra Nevada made them, but it's called Bad Motivator. From like, hey, Uncle Owen, this R2 unit has a Bad Motivator.
Yay, that's
so
great.
The first time I went, I was like, Bad Motivator IPA. I was all over that. So that's got a lot of
so we did like with Hazelwood, we brewed with them, and we did a hazy IPA called Majority Report.
Okay.
So after Minority
Report, I got you.
Exactly.
I got you.
And then Indigo Reef, we have the multi-pass Pilsner that we brewed, which I haven't tried yet, so I'm really excited. We have a Solar Space Spritzer from Peak Drift that we did. It's going to be a seltzer with apricot and cinnamon. So that one's going to be fun. We have Beam Me Up Brandon, which was with Savage Craft. We collabed a porter with them with espresso. So we have some good stuff. Columbia Craft, we have the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind because it's our fifth.
I get it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And then who am I forgetting? Let's see. Angry Fish. Oh, with Angry Fish, we did the Hooligans Hydronauts, and that's going to be a hazy IPA as well. So we have a couple good options: seltzers, IPAs, dark stuff. And then with Savage, we actually took our 10-year anniversary stout and blended it, and so we have a second beer with them, which will be fun to try as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So.
All right, and then we had a little sample of something earlier. What was it?
Yeah, so we got some package delivery from Other Half today, and they're out in New York. They do really phenomenal hazy IPAs.
Well, that was quite tasty.
Yeah, both stores got quite a bit of inventory from Other Half. So if you're a big fan of IPAs, come pick some out.
All right. Well, I as I've told you, I live right around the corner from the Shandon location, so I may take one to go as opposed to, because otherwise I just want to have another one, and then I got to call my wife to come get me.
And she's got to come all the way out here.
And that won't end well for me. So now people can come like just regular, or if you want to have people maybe kick it up a notch on Saturday.
Yeah, so we're actually opening at 12 instead of our 11 o'clock hours on Saturday, and we're going to close at 8 instead of our 10 o'clock, just because it's a pretty intensive day. Yeah. So all those draft beers will be available. Right. And then we also have some live music from starting from 1 to 7:30. Our first band's going to be Say Femme. They're a local favorite. North 40 comes and plays here often, so they're the second band we'll have. And Boy Obscure will be wrapping it up with some good DJ music. So,
and if Elijah comes and has too many beers, then he'll just start singing.
I'm going to hijack the microphone. I don't know what I'm here, and we're a couple beers deep. You will be hearing free.
And if I want to wear like a Ben Kenobi robe,
please do. Yeah. We definitely are encouraging people to dress.
Mr. Spock ears.
Absolutely. Whatever. I had dressed as Scully from X-Files one Halloween, so I'm tempted to take that out. I do have a good friend that dressed as Ripley one year, so also from Alien. Yeah. So I definitely encourage some outfits. It's going to be a fun day. Cousin's Maine Lobster is going to be parked out front too, so you have some options for food from our kitchen, or if you want to have the Cousin's Maine Lobster, they're good as well.
Good stuff. She's Caitlin Shire. We're at Craft and Draft Irmo Saturday afternoon, all afternoon into the early evening.
Yes.
Celebrate their 5th. And I know a lot of you come out here, and again, you can just play pinball and skee ball and Mario Kart.
Exactly.
And you may have heard from somebody else, you may not have, but I said if we could distract you and Kellen and find a way to just abscond with that James Bond pinball machine, I would, but that's probably frowned upon.
probably frowned upon.
But but I may try to get one of those. That was pretty cool. Caitlin, thank you for having us out.
Thank you so much.
And happy
guys.
anniversary.
Appreciate
It's a big deal. All right. More to do on the halftime show.
Oh my God.
See, I'm so used to that. The post-game show in just a second.
Who are we?
All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes of the post-game show. That's right. It's the post-game show.
Attaboy. We've only been doing this for over a year now.
Well, I know, but I did that one for 6. Every once in a while, I don't know why. Every once in a while, when I'm going to break with something like that, it just slips out. I don't know why.
You've been better at it, though. I mean, it did. There
thank
was
you.
an acclimation period. I will give you this.
Thank you.
You have been better at calling the show by its correct name.
Yeah,
but
I try.
You relapsed.
I try. It happens, man.
You did.
It happens.
Very brutal.
But thanks to Caitlin and Kellen, I was just talking with
My
them,
feelings aren't hurt.
going over their big beer cooler. We were talking about, honestly, Burial and Dissolver, two smaller but amazing breweries in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina.
Love a good microbrewery.
Yeah. Dissolver is on I guess that would be the north side of downtown, and Burial is what they call South Slope, but both excellent.
I didn't make my way back up to Asheville. I
Yes,
have
you
not been. Actually, it's funny enough. My mom sent me a picture. You text her back. Just
Yeah, you do. You call your mom.
She sent me a picture of us. We went and saw Jason Isbell at the Orange Peel.
Sure.
Back in 2013. It was during his first album,
Right.
Southeastern's tour. We went to that venue, and I had a ton of fun, man. That was a blast.
Well,
great venue, great town. I've not been since, though. That's been like 12 years now.
Oh, dude.
Hard to think that's 12 years ago. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
you're doing yourself a disservice. Get up there. Get up there.
yeah.
And right next to the Peel is Wicked Weed, which is one of my favorites. Downstairs. Go downstairs. More fun.
That was before I was old enough to drink, too.
And
I was able to get to experience.
And then right down the hill from the Orange Peel and Wicked Weed on Biltmore is McCormick Field. So you should go catch it.
Yes, absolutely.
And see
Go
how they
tourists.
literally carved a baseball field out the side of a mountain, because
That's pretty cool.
They literally carved a baseball field out the side of a mountain.
Not figuratively. They literally.
We'll talk to McGee about that tomorrow, because he wrote the book when he was an intern at the Tourists.
He interned for him,
and I love McCormick Field, man. It's a fun. That's a whole. Well, anyway, we could do that all day long. Final results are in. Viewership for the college football playoff title game down 12% from last season, despite the game featuring two huge brands. What's the biggest reason for the drop? A, it was too late in January. B, a dislike of both teams. C, college football fatigue. D, the inauguration and Martin Luther King Day falling on the same day as the title game. 40% dislike of both teams. This stayed at these same exact things from 354 votes about an hour ago to 399 votes at the end of the show.
Consistency.
That's crazy. So good for y'all, I guess. But 40% dislike of both teams. Just nobody, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I think that is definitely more so here. Nationally,
Yeah,
I will not buy that. I will sell.
26% say it was just too late in January. And 17% each on college football fatigue and inauguration / MLK Day falling on the same day. I had one here. I think it was also a Monday night. Everyone knew the $20 million roster was probably going to win. Notre Dame tried to make a game of it, though. Craig says, call me crazy, but I think it's transfer portal NIL fatigue. There are some who think that's ruined college football, but I don't think that's really the case.
Guess what? Notre Dame and Ohio State would still be getting some of the better players in the country.
Let's see. Calvin says games played too far apart, lost interest in keeping up with it. Yeah. And I've seen some of
that
you.
One I think is fair.
Yeah. Let's see. Beth said just Monday night. Again, I get it. I'd rather have it on Saturday as well, but Monday night is when they have the casual viewers home, and that's who they're going for.
Maybe even a Friday night would be cool.
Maybe. This one is from a guy who says, Gamecock guys, we don't need weeks between games. Just play the games and wrap this up in early January and keep a real structure. Saturdays only, no Fridays or Mondays crap. I get it. Saturday is college football day, but the NFL has taken over that late in the year, and the networks would rather have a crappy regular season game that might not mean anything on a Saturday, because they schedule those games well in advance. They don't float those or flex them or whatever they call it. And so college football has kind of found itself in a weird predicament as it wants to stretch its season out. And that's an unfortunate side effect of this. Some of you hit me and also said, they need to put this on ABC. Disney owns it. Put it on ABC. I agree. The reason they don't is because packages like this that ESPN exclusively has allows Disney to charge their cable operators a lot more to have ESPN carried around the country. Or now DirecTV, YouTube TV, and all those Fubo, I think it is, right? Sling,
Poo-poo.
although, yeah. They all those they pay Disney to carry it, and Disney charges a lot of money, but they also say to them, hey, we got exclusivity on the college football playoff, we have Monday Night Football, and those are things that we don't put on ABC. So that's why you need to have it. Love it, hate it, that's the reason more than any other as to why those games are where they are. So good stuff. Tomorrow, speaking of ESPN, our buddy Ryan McGee going to join us. Langston Moore will join us, and we'll have some fun with a wild card showdown as well on an abbreviated